Well, it's been a long, long road. And it's time for it to come to a climax. We know what this is building up to. Killer. Let's just see what happens here. I was red hot with anger. To try and keep myself calm, I tried counting down from a high number in my head. 219, 218, 217, 216. Ah, fuck that. Wasn't enough to placate me. Not now. Not after my whole world had been turned upside down. Miss Aija. No, Governor Aija. I had dedicated so much of my life to her. So much effort. I killed on her orders. Did absolutely horrible things. And for what? What had I gotten out of it? Absolutely nothing. All I had done was act like a pawn for a greater power. Just like when I lived under Odin, I was without autonomy. Reliant on her. No more. I would no longer be manipulated. From here on out, I'd be the one making choices. Starting with my choice to confront Governor Aija. I needed to talk with her. Not that I wanted to hear her talk at me. I'm talking about a real talk. I would confront her with everything I knew. All the issues that I had with her, I'd put them in her face, see her try to justify herself. If she explained herself well, then that would be one thing. But if she didn't... 207? 206? 205? I would get there soon. Then... But hold on a minute. I claimed that I would no longer be manipulated. Was that not just what had just happened? I entered a room with a plan that I had created. I intended to follow through on it. I had a conversation. And now I was doing something completely different. Had I not just demonstrated a textbook case of manipulation? And I mean, I got this information from Mercury, of all people. Their whole thing seemed to be deception. Trickery. They were far from a trustworthy source. And they were the one I was putting my faith in? My brow furrowed at this. Was I? Was I mistaken to be angry at Aija? Maybe I was being rash. Maybe this wasn't really me thinking. Maybe I hadn't been wrong to follow Aija. Maybe I should. I shook my head. As much as I might have jokingly described the interaction between Mercury and Devon in Mercury's last chapter as Devon being red-pilled, I'm going to be a bit more fair to that scene and quote another very, very thought-provoking game. I shook my head. No, that isn't rationality talking. I feel like a character in a quote that really it just makes me think of the line from Pathologic. It's just, no, I detest trickery, but if we as souls are to suffer deception, our hands are no longer tied. It's weakness. Mercury didn't plant new thoughts into my head, not really. They just made me confront ones that were in the shadows of my mind. Ones I didn't want to look at. Really, I had been slowly approaching this conclusion for a long time. I had tried to push these dissident thoughts away, thinking they were just baseless self-doubts created by the worst corner of my mind. But now I could see it was my conscience trying to break through to me. I'm glad to see that the thought in the back of my mind. Mercury certainly fell, based on the revelations we had about who Mercury exactly is. Oops. The logic that I used to dismiss all these concerns was nothing more than denial. It seems to fit Mercury to be, How had I not seen the truth sooner? Guess you just can't see what's what when you're in the thick of things. You can't really tell what is logical, or what's just denial. What doubts are simply self-sabotaging and which ones you should listen to. Now I could. Now I saw how misguided I had been all this time. And now I was ready to do something about it. 176, 175, 174. Still, despite it all, the thought of actually confronting Aija was met with some resistance. Half of me hated her. Half of me just felt sad. I just wanted to understand why she had done what she had done. What her real intentions were. A solid part of me refused to believe she really was this evil figure. Sure, maybe she was misguided at points. She had lost herself a bit. She hadn't been pushing forwards her agenda as much as she needed to. But evil? The woman who had never been anything but nice to me, who had reached out at my lowest point. To this, my cynical side responded. Was she really always nice? Wasn't the fact that she reached out when I was at my lowest point a calculated move on her part? Think about it, would she really value you at all? No, that last question had been slipped in with two legitimate ones. The dark part of my mind was sneaky like that. I didn't care whether or not she valued me. That didn't matter at all. The question was, who was Governor Aija really? Misguided? Or a monster? I knew which answer I wanted to believe. I also knew which answer had more evidence. In the end. But it wasn't the end yet, was it? I would confront her, here and now, and let her speak for herself, and then I'd make my decision. Finally, I reached the governor's building. Without thinking, I knocked on the door. As soon as I did, I realized my mistake. It was a day off. There wasn't even a guard present at the front desk, an extremely rare occasion. In theory, I just shouldn't be here. But I knew her well, better than most. This close to the election? There were good odds I would still find her in her office. So I reached deep into my pocket. Finally, I pulled out the emergency key Aija had gifted me. I remember what she said when she had it crafted for me. A reminder of my faith in you. Put the key into the door's keyhole. With a turn, I unlocked the governor building's front doors. Briefly, I looked over at the security camera that was capturing my face. Then I continued into the governor's building. I walked over to the nearby hallway, reached under the closest painting, and I pressed the button. As I walked along the hall, I reached into my pocket. My hand grabbed the pistol. I didn't know if I would use it. I didn't want to use it. I held it nonetheless. Finally, I reached the door to Aija's office. Took a deep breath in. Then I entered. Sure enough, Aija was in the room when I entered. Aija was working on something on her laptop. After I entered, however, she shut the computer and stood up. She looked surprised to see me, which I suppose was understandable. I hadn't given her any forewarning, which was abnormal. Surprise didn't last long, however, before it turned into anger. Devon! What are you doing here? Did I not make it abundantly clear? We cannot be seen together. We cannot be remotely associated. I have worked hard for a cover story in the case that those photographs come out, but when anyone gets any other glimpse of us together, the whole thing comes crashing down hard. You just needed to stay away. Do nothing. Are you really so useless that you can't even do that? I held my tongue. What? Speak, why don't you? Or what? Did you just come here to fuck things up? I mean, please tell me that you didn't just break my one order for no good reason. What on earth could have possibly... It was at this point Aija trailed off. Wasn't sure what did it. Maybe she noticed the expression on my face. Maybe she noticed the pistol gripped in my hand. On second thought, it was probably that. But if it was, Aija reconsidered her approach. she realized that maybe she should be a bit more diplomatic. She took a deep breath and recomposed herself. I'm sorry. That outburst was unwarranted. Things have been stressful here. Honestly, despite it all, I'm a little grateful you're here. It's comforting to have somebody on my side around. Someone on your side. Right. I know that we can't be seen together right now, but you've always been clever, Devon. You know that that's important. Well, you thought of that before making your way in here, right? Yes, I shouldn't have assumed otherwise. I'll trust that you did the appropriate legwork beforehand. In that case, I'm glad to be able to talk to you face to face. I'd like to apologize for that phone call I made to you not too long ago. The one that initially instructed you to keep your distance. It has dawned on me that the language I used was overly harsh. Why has that dawned on me? I see the gun in your hand. It's dawned on me very quickly. I was not being productive at the time. In fact, I may have been quite hurtful. So because of that, I'd like to apologize right now. Sorry if I hurt your feelings. I was lashing out, and that's not acceptable. Aija made a small bowing motion, signaling her apology. Stupidly, a part of me felt moved by this. It was obvious what this was. Her covering her tracks. All the same, already a part of me was reconsidering. It's fine. I didn't come here to get an apology. Ah, right. You've always been quite mature, Devon. Let me guess, you wish to discuss future plans. Something like that. Right. I did say in anger that I was considering severing our relationship. Obviously, that was hyperbole. We simply need to reconsider some aspects. We can discuss that now. We can. But actually, I have some other things I'd like to ask you about first. Is that right? Well then, okay. It's not as though there are any particular time restraints on our conversation. I will allow you to ask whatever questions as you wish before we move on to the real meat of things. Good to hear. What I want to talk to you about it was simple what I had to ask. And yet, I felt the words catching in my throat. Despite how I phrased it, this isn't some light conversation topic. I was accusing Aija with this. That wasn't something I could just take back. It wasn't something I wanted to take back. My resistance to asking the question only emboldened my determination to get answers. What's your salary like, Aija? My salary? What an odd question. Are you considering getting into public service as well, Devon? I must say, you've never struck me as the type. Don't try and obfuscate like that. You know damn well that's not what the question was about. I'm sorry? Considering everything we do, you must be making a lot of income. I mean, from Art Daysma alone, that must be a significant amount. And I was just wondering how much money you were making from all this. Is this some sort of negotiation tactic? Devon, your work is greatly appreciated. If you wish for a raise, simply asking, but no. Stop it, this isn't about me. I'm asking directly about you. Are you using your position as governor to make a lot of money? You are, I know that already. How much? Why? At this point, Aija was openly confused. Something else, some other emotion I wasn't quite able to pin down. She certainly does not seem thrilled. You know, Devon, salary is really something you're not supposed to ask about in polite company. Just like age and weight. I've never been one for polite company. Answer the question. Well, for your information, there are indeed a couple of revenue streams that I have set up for my position. Support from Olimpo is in fact chief among them. Fundraising from supporters is also greatly appreciated. However, I similarly have many expenses to consider. For instance, there's your salary. My salary? Devon, I know that you don't like to live lavishly, but I have always made sure that you are compensated fairly for your intense and dangerous work. I'm sure you have quite a sizable savings account at this point. There are traditional campaigning expenses that every politician that you ask could lecture you about. Additionally, there are several other protocols we have put in place that require upkeep. Many bribes to keep track of. This year, including our very own. Why? Why? Why, to make sure I can continue to do good as governor. You've already got public sentiment behind you. You've already can probably win elections without all this. What's that sentence? In that case, wouldn't it be better to spend this money advancing your agenda? See, that change is slow. That's why you haven't been able to perfectly reform Panthea yet, right? Well, I did learn something from my family. Throw money at a problem, it goes away. That's just a thing you can do. I know you know how to do that. So then why? Shouldn't you be spending this cash working on the change you intend to create with your position, not on keeping the position itself? That's broken in politics, Devon. Devon, your concerns are valid. Perhaps an inventory of our current budget is in order, to make sure money is best spent. However, there are certain nuances that from your position you may not be able to appreciate. Money can get you far, true. However, there are still limits. Some change must go through the proper channels. I'm looking for complete systemic reform. That's not easily bought with cash. It's bought with political capital. Making sure I am able to continue enacting change is just a different form of investment, you see? Maybe. But that's not my only question. I've been doing some rough math in my head. I know I don't have access to a lot of hard figures, but I still went through the Themis stupid financial projection training. I've been thinking about how everything I know about, even still, you should be making a lot more than you're spending. Where is that extra money going? Is it going anywhere? Are the rumors right? Are they being funneled into a secret stash? When you stop being the governor, are you just going to live off that stash for the foreseeable future? Devon, that is quite enough. I know you're likely upset over recent events, but this is not an excuse to behave in this manner. Your accusations are frankly offensive. What are you even thinking? You're right, you don't know the numbers. You don't know much of anything, in fact. So I find it highly amusing that you intend to make any claims about my finances from your limited knowledge. For the record, I know I do not have some secret stash of collected wealth. Now in the future you will consider before speaking such filthy slander. I will consider. Oh, I considered, all right. Evidently not. Evidently so. Thought a whole lot about it. And you dismissing my concerns just like that is bullshit. I'm not dismissing anything. I am stating that you are factually incorrect. Given the nature of these allegations, I think it is well within my right to be somewhat offended. You know what? No. No, actually, I don't think that's within your right. Excuse me? You heard what I said. From the start, you claimed that this was a partnership. Now I get that it's not one-to-one. Obviously, when I'm working for you, we're not going to be quite equals. But still, there's a limit, you know? There's some basic respect I'm owed. You've never really shown it. You think I haven't shown you respect? You've been polite when it suited you. If you're working together, we should be viewed as equals. I should be able to ask questions, have complaints. I should be allowed to disagree with you at times. But whenever I do, it always devolves into something like this. You're saying it is your right to be offended when I question you. Fuck you! I've got a legitimate question I put a lot of thought into. If you dismiss it as outright bullshit. I didn't dismiss it outright. I gave you a straightforward answer. It's less a question than it is an accusation. Call it whatever you want. It's still me coming to you looking for a dialogue. That's not unreasonable. You are hiring me to be an assassin, for Christ's sake. You are not some moral paragon. The idea that you would be skimming profits is not unthinkable. And me pushing you on that topic is not unreasonable. Huh. My God. You ungrateful little shit. What? You heard me. Why do you get off acting like this? Acting like what? Acting like you've been treated unfairly somehow. You have completely forgotten where you came from. Don't you remember when we first met? You had nothing. You were about to rot in jail. You were purposeless, passionless, useless. I gave you a life. You took away my life. What? You took my life away from me. You filled me with some bullshit purpose that served your ends. You consigned me to serve under you. I didn't consign shit. You had a free choice. You could have left at any time. Look, you don't get to say that. You know that's not right. I had no choice but to follow you. To kill for you. No, it would have been better if you just stole years away from me. You could live with missing years. What you did turned me into a monster. I killed for you. I murdered people for no good reason, just because you thought it might help you a bit. These people might be a threat. Oh well, I'm so sorry. Next time I won't reach out. I'll just let you go and rot in jail by yourself. Don't try and spin this as though you were doing something selfless. You reaching out to me when I had no other choice was not notable. It was manipulative. It was a calculated choice you made to put me in your debt. It worked. Until now, at least. Until now? Huh. Is that what this is? You're here to what? Resign? You think you can have a normal life that easy? Then fine, you're let go. You can see yourself out. Like hell, I'm leaving here. I'm not quitting shit. I'm here to get answers. You're going to give them to me. Sure. Fine. I haven't put up any fight on that front. You asked me if I was skipping cash. I said no. What else? Aija, what do you believe in? What's this? Have I not told you? Panthea needs to be better. It deserves better. Believe in making this city the best version it can be. To do so, there are many improvements. Quit it. Oh, now you want me to stop answering? I want you to stop bullshitting. Yet you're reading your campaign speech, you're not answering the question. I don't want to hear some vague promises. I want to hear actual policies. Things thought out carefully, things that will actually actionably make the city better. Things that are worth the sacrifices made to get here. You've had many years at this point to make changes as governor, most of them fairly uncontested. And guess what? For a lot of people, Panthea still sucks. So what gives? Is all that talk about making Panthea better just bullshit? Or are you actually a shitty leader? Because either way, it makes me really wonder whether any of this has been worth it. It's making me think the answer is no. This, Aija just grimaced. Her eyes narrowed. I finally realized what the emotion I couldn't place was. Suspicion. Devon, this isn't you. Where'd you get this information? What information? These are all just obvious questions to ask. No, this isn't coming from you. Someone put you up to this. Who is it? Who turned you against me? Nobody turned me against you. Well, maybe that's not true. You could argue you did. Excuse me? Whatever. I asked you a question. You are going to answer it. Devon, you moron, of course you wouldn't understand this. Okay, if I don't understand it, explain it. Change isn't always that fast. When you look at it, I've implemented many programs that are oriented on producing long-term positive effects. Not seeing worlds of change in the span of a few years fundamentally misunderstands how history works. It's true there are some more drastic reforms that are possible. However, people are not built for that. I'm not talking about amassing political capital, I'm talking about it on a societal level. People can't handle hard changes. They're likely to spark outrage, backlash, fear, all sorts of things. I'll give her this, she has a point. Hell, even just the thought of hard changes is enough to set certain weak-minded people off. That's because whether they'll admit it or not, most people feel safe where they currently are in life. Wild changes scare them. The most surefire way to make Panthea better is to make progress incrementally, and with policies that have long-term effects. Get that's not as satisfying. My job isn't to be satisfying. My job is to make Panthea a better place, even if it's not a popular process. I had to think about a response for a second before opening my mouth. Like always, it seemed reasonable enough. If I had learned anything recently, people could seem quite different from how they really were. You didn't name a single concrete issue in that whole speech. What? That whole time you were explaining things, you didn't go into a single specific issue. You used no data or evidence to back up your own arguments. And if they sound convincing, you're basically just relying on me trusting your judgment of things. Pulls out gun. Debate me, Aija. Devon, do you really want to talk specific policy? Cocks gun. Debate me in the realm of public policy. We can if you want. If I'm being honest, I doubt you'd understand it. Maybe you're right. But no, you're not being reasonable right now. I mean, there's some sense in what you're saying. But I know a lot. I've seen a lot. I don't sense you're being honest right now. What? Maybe at one point you really did have some specific plans in mind. You really believed in the rhetoric you were spinning. Maybe you even think you believe it right now. But deep down, that's not what this is. You just care more about keeping your position than you do about making change. Yeah. When I walked over here, I cycled through a lot of possibilities in what you might really be like. But now I can see it. It's not overly complicated. It's not super hard to understand. It's not that dramatic. It's not even that evil. Not even that uncommon. We just can't bear the thought of losing power. Just human. And what the fuck would you know about that? About being human? Devon, you're the most inhuman person I've ever come across. And you're making a huge mistake. Betraying me like this. Do you think that when you explain yourself on the back of that fateful night, anyone else would see it the way I did? Anyone who would have understood you? Not a fucking chance. They would have thought you were a fucking monster, and rightfully so. It was only me that saw any value in you. And it turns out, I was wrong. You truly are a worthless, amoral piece of shit. I'm just surprised I hadn't realized it sooner. Aija began chuckling to herself in a slightly unstable manner. Oh, Devon, you absolute moron. You don't realize that I was your only hope. Nobody else will ever care about you. Well, gee, looks like she was being manipulated. She was manipulating us and taking advantage of us. There'll be no other place where you can be halfway useful. I guess you could say she has now achieved the gaslight gatekeep girl boss. You had one chance to be of any value, and that was with me. After this, you've got no one, nowhere. There's not a single place a murderous, brain-dead, useless monster like you can go and be accepted. Understand? Part of me understood Aija was just lashing out. I guess she really was self-deluded, if she was actually offended by what I was said about her. At some level, I knew Aija was just also in pain, looking to say the things that would hurt the most. And yet, the other part of me couldn't have helped but agree with what she had said. It was unlikely anybody else would ever be able to understand me. Understand what I had gone through, what I had done, and why. It was part of why I clung so desperately to Aija. She felt like the one person who might value me, and now that connection was severed. And just as I thought about this, I came to a surprising realization. I don't care. Huh? I don't care about that. It doesn't matter. I know I'm making the right choice by confronting you. And that's all that matters. Are you serious right now? Deadly. See, do you see my gun? I'm deadly serious. Now I want more answers. Seriously? I think we're done here. My hand, which was gripping onto the pistol, raised, taking aim squarely at Aija's chest. Okay, now we're getting down to business. This isn't a discussion anymore. You're going to tell me what I want to know. And starting now, you're just going to tell the truth. Aija was clearly becoming increasingly uncomfortable by the second. Good. Squirm. For the first time in the whole interaction, she probably felt a legitimate sense of danger. She's realizing that our chains are no longer on us. It had now dawned on her that she might be in danger. She thought she had us under control. But there are no chains on us. Good. She had played God behind a desk long enough. She needed to have a taste of what it was like on the actual battlefield. Could tell from her eyes that she was scanning the surroundings, looking for some sort of out, a way to guarantee her safety. However, before long, she came to the conclusion that she had hired a pretty good assassin. There wasn't much that someone completely untrained could do. Okay. Fine. What do you want to know? I'm an open book. Just tell me and I can give you the information you want. This brought me to a question. What did I want to know? Despite everything, I hadn't quite thought this far ahead. It wasn't like I didn't have anything to ask. In fact, the problem was practically the exact opposite. I had too many things I wanted to ask. Conflicting questions vied for the priority in my head. Eventually, however, a clear forerunner stood out. A question that, for whatever reason, had stuck it with me all this time. Who killed Maximilian Collins? Seriously? Devon, what is your obsession with that case? Are you secretly friends with that guy, or what? I'm not the one asking the questions here. You know more about that case than you're letting on. Want to get some answers? Fine. Fine, okay, I'll talk. Want to establish something up front first, though. And what's that? I didn't lie to you when I said I didn't know who killed Maximilian Collins. I don't. I still don't. It wasn't planned for. I never found clear evidence pointing to an answer. But gun to my head, which I guess this is what this is. I have a pretty good guess as to who did it. Or what, maybe. Oh? Huh? You know how I said the only people who knew about the Cock Robin killings were you, me, and Ariane? Yeah? I tried to curb the oncoming indignation from entering my voice. That's not strictly true. Who else? The person who suggested the idea of recruiting an assassin in the first place. The person who got damaging information on my opponent in the first election I ran. The person who has kept me informed of the city's happenings. The one who brings me a lot of the targets that I end up giving you. And who's that? The Djinn. Hello? What? The Djinn. The fuck's a Djinn? That's the name they went by, anyway. I don't know the Djinn's identity. They wanted to be anonymous. Honestly, it's mostly been a one-sided relationship. The Djinn helps me out, usually by presenting me with some information, sometimes a more detailed plan. Then they ask for nothing in return. It is admittedly a very unorthodox setup. I, too, was highly suspicious in the beginning. But at no point was I ever obligated to do anything. Never did feel like I was being made to do something I didn't want to do. I was just receiving help. Again, I don't know who killed Maximilian. But if I had to guess, it would be the Djinn. I had said nothing up until this point. That's because I was afraid that if I did, it would reveal my anger. Aija. I had been nothing but loyal to her for so long. Up until recently, I had given her absolutely no reason to doubt me. And yet she had completely hidden this from me. hell? What's up with that? Did Ariel know? Was I the only one out of the loop? A disposable tool. Whatever. Focus. Aija doesn't matter. I should just keep probing for information. You ever thought to tell me about this? It wasn't necessary. I thought it was unnecessary. Yep, called that. How do you figure that? The djinn doesn't really matter that much. He just gave some help every now and then. Just some information. No big deal. Just some help. Keep it cool, Devon. Keep it cool. You have no idea who this djinn is. Not a clue. I don't understand them at all. And really, I don't want to. And you never made an attempt to find out their identity. You are best friends with the chief of police. Surely you made an effort. Of course I did. Nothing came up from it. And then the djinn sent me a message about the investigation. They said they wanted nothing but to support my reign as governor. But if I kept looking into their identity, I could expect no more help. The djinn had gotten me where I was. Obviously, hearing that threat, I called the investigation off. What? What was up with this? Couldn't get a read on the situation at all. The djinn, huh? So Mercury's onto something. An anonymous source. Thought came to my head. Is it possible that the augmented voice that gave me information earlier today was, in fact, the djinn? It certainly fit their MO. And that would explain how they knew about me. Well, actually getting my specific phone number is a bit of a leap. Still, if you know who I was, somehow getting that number suddenly becomes a lot more plausible. But again, what was their motivation? To help Aija, looking for nothing in return? That was the wrong way to think about it. Aija being in power must get them something. But what? Aija said she was never given specific instructions. If Aija trusts you, you can offer the information and advice at your own discretion. Doesn't that sort of mean that you control the governor? Of course, to a limited extent, you could make her do anything unreasonable, anything she wouldn't already want to do, anything that wouldn't help her. Even still, you'd get some amount of influence. Forget it. Isn't this ironically the same sort of influence that Mercury as Locke wanted? Over Bach? I think about the djinn later. For now, there were other questions I wanted answers to. Rather, I wanted the answer to a question I'd already asked. I asked you once. I'll ask you again. Are you hoarding cash? Answer the question. Brandished the pistol, reminding her who was in charge here. Fine. You would never really understand anyways. What does that mean? You won't know the answer to your question. The answer's over by that painting of me. It's a painting of me with my money behind it. Painting of her? Looked over to the right, trying to get a good look at what she meant. It was the incident that Aija was waiting for. She must not have trusted me. She thought I'd shoot her. She was too desperate. And so, as my vision turned away from her, she ducked down and launched forward towards me. As she rushed in, she reached over to her nearby desk and grabbed the pen off of it. And then she stabbed out at me, using the pen as a makeshift dagger. It was a laudable attempt, but she clearly didn't realize how good an assassin she had hired. I caught the wrist of the arm holding the pen with my left hand and punched out at her face with the hand holding the pistol. As she recoiled, taking a step backwards, I moved in, grabbing her hair with my left hand. Oh, Jesus! Then I slammed her head down to the nearby desk and pushed out. After this attack, Aija fell back, limp. Initially, I didn't think much of this. However, a few seconds passed by, and Aija made no attempt to get back up. Wait. I was in combat mode, not recognizing my own strength. Slamming someone's head at that against the wood at that angle, that velocity. That could be bad. Hold on a second. Get down, restart to check Aija's pulse. Please, please, please. Breathe that a sigh of relief. There was a pulse. Good. Despite confronting her like this, I hadn't intended to actually kill Aija. Or at least I hadn't made a decision one way or the other. For now, at least, she was still breathing. Must have just knocked her out. Okay. I could deal with that. A little lame that my interrogation had to end now, but I guess that was sort of my fault. Recomposed myself. She got bodied. She talked shit and got hit. She spent all that time thinking that she had us tightly under her thumb. For everything we've done for her, what does that say about how little she actually gave a crap about us if she thought that she could legitimately defend herself against, legitimately take us? Also, what does that say about that question that she took that of all times to try and get one up on us instead of answering? Like, is that a question that if she answers honestly, that'll put her at odds with the djinn, maybe? With Aija down, what was next? Wonder, was Aija's comment about the painting just a distraction? That made sense. If she planned to attack me right after, there was no reason to actually be truthful. But still, the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Aija was weirdly protective of this office. And she had already proven herself to have a penchant for hiding things within paintings. In that case, it couldn't hurt to check, right? I began to walk around the desk. I made my way over to the painting. Gripped onto the frame and... Woo! All of a sudden, a loud sound filled the room. Familiar sound. An assassin, I was well aware of what a gunshot sounded like. I could even place that it was probably the sound of a pistol firing. The only question is, why had a gunshot been fired? I mean, I hadn't fired it. And... oh! Suddenly I felt something cold dripping down my stomach. Looked down to check it out. It was at this point I made the realization. I had eyes on the bullet hole that had traveled through my stomach. Looked a bit further forwards, and saw that the bullet had lodged itself into the wall in front of me. Oh. Instantly my knees buckled. Huh. It was surreal. Thought I'd be in a lot more pain. Instead, things just felt off. It was supposed to be my brain making an executive decision. Pain was too unbearable, so I shouldn't be allowed to feel it. Weakly, I collapsed onto the nearby wall. Turned over to look at the direction the bullet must have come from. Over there, I saw that a familiar face had made their way into this office. I didn't know them personally, but I recognized them. You're Kane Shea, right? Well, shit. Wow, would you look at that? I'm famous. Maybe I was projecting. That was probably likely. With just 2 sentences, it felt as though I could just tell. I could tell that this was the same person who had talked to me over the phone. So, yep. So, in terms of timeline, Kane managed to put one over on Mercury, of all people. Gave them the flash drive that was bugged. Sent Devon to Mercury's apartment to try and kill them. Canonically, in terms of this timeline, Mercury has put it together that they were duped. That the flash drive they were given was bugged. But I don't think Mercury has explicitly put it together that Kane Shea had pulled one over on them. Kane, for his part, casually looked around the office. When he noticed Aija, he suddenly walked over to her body. Whoa, what's this? What did you do to her? Knocked her out. Yeah, no, you're right. She has a pulse. Jeez. Maybe a minor panic attack there. What are you doing here? Me? Well, when I sent you over to kill that troublemaker, I thought you were a safe bet. However, given their track record, I wanted to be sure. And sure enough, for too long, they reared their head up somewhere else. Good thing I had an insurance plan. Though I kind of doubt that actually worked either. God, I really have to give them credit. I mean, turning Aija's brainwashed pawn against her in the span of a single conversation. That's a real skill. Full respect. Anyways, as soon as I realized that they were still kicking, I had a pretty good idea of what happened. It was pretty predictable what you did next. Wonder if the last Lock episode comes after the last Mercury episode. And the insurance plan was whatever was Bach and whoever came in to attack Mercury from there. Though I really don't like getting involved myself, there wasn't exactly time to set anything else up. And there was no telling what you might do unleashed. So I rushed over here, and, well, guess I came just in time. Honestly, you've been showing wildcard signs for a while now. Tried to harness that, but that was me being greedy. I should have removed you from the board a while ago. Oh well. Tried to process everything he was saying. There were too many questions. And for some reason, my brain was really fuzzy. Still, I had put together one thing. You're the one who killed Maximilian Collins. You were there. Ah. Well, that'll be. For hard muscle, it seems like you do have half a decent brain. It's a bit of an odd pull, I must admit, but you're not wrong. Sorry for jacking your style like that. Emergency measures and all. Why? Why'd you do it? Why? Devon, my friend, I'm afraid explaining that would take more time than the two of us have together. Short version? Let's just say Max is a great case study for why idiots shouldn't be given a whole bunch of power. Oh, so he's Elon Musk. Well, I guess I'm lucky. Had he actually been smart, I would have been in a lot more trouble. Feeling as though he had adequately answered the question, Kane looked back over at Aija's limp body. Jeez. Well, you did a number on the lady, didn't you? That's rough. Yeah, well, actually. Thinking about it, I can actually put this to pretty good use. See that? That's called adaptability. It's what keeps me on the top. You're gonna pay for this. Mm-hmm. And pray tell, how are you gonna make sure of that? In case you forgot, you're kind of a little bit shot. Angered, I tried to sit up. However, I was immediately answered with a shot of intense pain. Looked down. Then I finally realized something I had been blocking out. I had killed enough people to know what a fatal wound looked like. I was going to die. I had a few minutes left at best, and then I'd be dead. Oh, shit. No. I am sorry, by the way, about the whole killing you thing. I know, sounds super hollow, probably is. But I really do try to avoid murder whenever possible. By the way, I shot you in the stomach instead of the head for a reason. Personally, if I were killed, I would like to know why I was dying, what was happening. That's why I'm talking to you right now. Apologies if you would have preferred a quick death. I felt anger flare up inside me. Fighting through the pain, I reached inside my inner coat pocket, gripped on my most reliable weapon. The Gungniri, I would always eventually hit its target. With all the effort I could muster, I flung the dagger at Kane. It sailed harmlessly past Kane's feet. Are you serious? What was that, man? I get you're angry, but come on. You know fighting back at this point is useless, right? You. Struggling to even speak. Dizziness was violent now. Hey, easy. You don't need to talk. Just rest. You know, I hate to say it, but if you had just followed Aija's orders, things would have worked out a lot better for you. Didn't need to come to this. Could have played an important part in making Panthea the city it deserves to be. Instead, you're dying alone in a place like this. Empty, meaningless death. A meaningless death. Kane was right. What had I accomplished? Nothing. I had thrown a tantrum and been shot. Just like my life, I had been useless. Is this really how I met my end? Having never amounted to anything. Most all my life I was miserable. The best I ever reached was content. Nobody would mourn me. I did horrible things and failed to properly make up for my actions. Truly, my life was worthless. And my death was... All of a sudden, I stopped spiraling. I don't know what gave me the strength to do it. Maybe it was a surge of energy that came from my life flashing before my eyes. Whatever the case, in these final moments I realized I was wrong. My life was meaningless. Who said? The only person who got to make that decision was me. My efforts didn't amount to anything. That wasn't right at all. It was only at the end, but ultimately I was able to do the right thing. Cain was counting on me to kill Mercury, and he had to come over here and to kill me. That was 2 wrenches right there that I threw into his plan. Surely that mattered. It was likely nobody would acknowledge what I had done. People would think I hadn't changed, I hadn't made a difference, but I knew the truth. It mattered. I was able to do the right thing. And in the end, I was able to make a difference. A small one, but a significant one that mattered to me. That was all that mattered. What the? You're smiling at a time like this? The hell? How should you possibly be content with that? Well, power to you, Devon. Makes my conscience lighter if you pass with a smile on your face. Cain, you asshole. Yeah, Mercury would stop you. I wouldn't be around to see it, but I was sure justice would win out. Panthea would be made better. So in that case, I should just enjoy my last moments, right? I was allowed that much. Pleasant memories began to float to me, memories I'd never really stopped to appreciate before. Playing board games as a kid with Art and Polly, without any interference from Odin, actually enjoying ourselves and getting along. Meaningful conversation I had with a fellow soldier back at base, where I convinced him to desert back home to his wife the day before the base raid. A movie night I had at the office with Aija and Ariane. We just ate pizza and talked about nonsense. Beautiful sunset I watched from the ocean. Huh. I always liked the idea of reincarnation. I hoped whatever form my next life took, I'd appreciate it at the time. I didn't get a next life. I was pretty lucky to just get one, right? Thought about more the little moments of happiness throughout my life. Moments never documented. Moments only I could appreciate. Moments that mattered to me. I kept thinking about them, till eventually, didn't. You know, it's a useful way of viewing things. Not many things in life are simply better or worse. Okay, actually, that's not a good way of putting it, because that's just not true. I mean to say, you're going to be faced with a lot of choices in life. You'll stress about them, what to possibly choose. It's so important to choose right. And these choices can be incredibly important. They might change your life drastically. That doesn't mean what you choose matters. The world is infinitely vast and complicated. You never really predict how things will unfold. Either choice will really entail. More to the point, if it's really a hard choice, odds are both options are fine. Both options have their own pros and cons. Different, but not better or worse. Where to vacation? Different, but not better or worse. What college to go to? Different, but not better or worse. Who to date? Different, sure, but not better or worse. To have kids or not to? Different, not better, not worse. Alive or... Not. Hmm. Here we have the final table of cards. The final table of cards. What's gonna happen from here? Our only other playable character is now dead. We know, essentially, who the mastermind is. What is gonna happen from here? Devon went out, managing to throw a few wrenches in the plans of the mastermind. For what that's worth. What it is in fact worth remains to be seen at present, but is not insignificant. We will make the most of that, for his sake. Until next time, though, until then.